Hey everybody, today's car is pretty interesting. It's a 2019 Lexus LS500h all-wheel drive. So as you probably know, the LS is Lexus's flagship sedan. It's the vehicle that set the entire reputation for the Lexus brand back when it debuted in the late 80s. It was fully redesigned for the 2018 model year, so the vehicle you see here, the design's pretty new. Obviously, the H suffix implies that this has a hybrid powertrain, which is kind of interesting. I was surprised to find that in this vehicle, the hybrid actually makes less horsepower than the non-hybrid. The non-hybrid LS comes with a twin-turbo V6 that puts out around 450 horsepower. This vehicle puts out just a little bit over 350 horsepower, and you gain about 5 additional mpg combined. So, is the hybrid really worth it? I'll get into that in a little bit. The other crazy thing about this car is that it has an MSRP of around $110,000 as equipped. Is it worth that? I don't know. Let's do a little tour and you can be the one to decide. Starting with the exterior, and this thing really does the best that it can with Lexus's current design language. Lexus designs are a little controversial. I wouldn't exactly call it beautiful, but I wouldn't call it ugly either. The LS has what I would refer to as a very greenhouse heavy design, meaning that a lot of the vehicle's visual mass is up here in the greenhouse. It's kind of got a long sloping, coupe-like profile here. It isn't a hatchback. It's got a traditional trunk, but you can see that the rear roofline goes very far back, and it's got a really short rear deck lid. We'll move up front here, and where's Lexus's corporate face with lots of crossing up there. Like every other Toyota and Lexus hybrid, this $110,000 full-size luxury sedan comes with a blue outlined badge to tell you that it's a hybrid. And it's actually running right now. I have it turned on. The engine isn't running, but the batteries are active and the car is technically turned on. So we've got some rather large chrome wheels here. Let's see, I'm not sure what size they are exactly. They are 20-inch wheels, 245, 45, 20s. And this thing actually has air suspension, so you can raise it up and lower it via a button on the center console. And I think the air suspension just helps to absorb bumps. I think the adjustability of it is more just an extra. I think the main purpose of it is to keep the ride super smooth, super plush, and I found that to be pretty true. Moving on to the back. So the taillights are kind of a two-tiered design. This chrome strip bisects them, so there's a little bit of taillight under here, but obviously the majority of it is up top there, and it's got the L design in it, which is something you see on a lot of Lexuses. Here's a look at the badge, LS500h all-wheel drive, and I'll pop the trunk here. You'll probably be surprised to find that this thing really doesn't have a very big trunk. Maybe I won't pop the trunk. Maybe that's because it's turned on. That's kind of the theme with this vehicle. It's got some really finicky design, missteps. But a power trunk, and you look in here, and I don't know how far back you can see, but it's a really shallow trunk. So here's the outside. I can almost, with my knee against the bumper, I can almost reach the back of it. And this thing actually has adjustable rear seats, so the second row does not fold flat. Not that many LS buyers want it to do that, but I think that's kind of a unique element to this vehicle. Obviously, it's got the Lexus first aid kit. Wouldn't be a Lexus without a first aid kit in the back. And here is what I think is one of the vehicle's first design missteps. So you've got a trunk button on here, and the trunk is power activated. So I can push this button to close the trunk. What I can't do is push this button to close the trunk, nor will the button in the cabin close the trunk. The button on the key and the button in the cabin can only open the trunk, and the only way you can close the trunk with the power closing feature is via that button right there. It seems like that would just be a simple software change, so it really kind of, in a $110,000 car, I've got a leaf on it here. In a $110,000 car, that really seems like a design oversight, which at this price point, it's kind of unacceptable to me. Anyway, moving on, you've got hybrid badging on the side of this thing, multi-stage hybrid, and I think that kind of cheapens it overall, to be frank. Again, $110,000 here. I don't need hybrid badging on this vehicle in the same vein as I have it on a Camry hybrid. Anyway, moving on to the inside. Silence. That's one of the main selling points of this vehicle, is it's just the top of the line in terms of luxury and refinement. That's been a theme with the LS for a long time. You can just see this thing is posh, to say the least. I'll do my door panel test here. This is soft touch leather. This is more leather. This is all leather, and it kind of has this funky floating design right here. It does actually connect. You can see you can kind of just grip it all the way down. So leather, leather, leather. This is even wrapped in leather, and the inside of the door pockets are even leather. To touch hard plastic, you have to go all the way down here. This is just all leather, except obviously for this, and this. This is kind of a funky design. It's like a zebra pattern, and then this is like brushed aluminum feel. The leather extends to the dashboard. It's on the top of the dash. It's even in the gauge cluster. So you'll see this is a mechanical gauge, this is a mechanical gauge, and this is all digital, and the surround for the screen here is all leather, and it even has stitching, which is kind of a funky effect. I don't think I've ever seen that in a vehicle before. I really like this design feature. It's these lines that go all the way up here, and then they start again on the other side of the gauge cluster and sweep all the way across. This is another weird design element. I know you can't really see it, but it's just really that. It's just a design element. It doesn't really do anything. At nighttime it lights up, but it's just this kind of wavy cross pattern that you see throughout the rest of the vehicle. Some cool configurability here. Like I mentioned, adjustable suspension. It's hardly noticeable, but it will raise the vehicle up just a little and lower it just a little. I'll see if it's working right now. You can see the vehicle is in high mode. I'll see if I can lower it. Yeah, it doesn't want... There it goes. So I think we're lowering. Everything's very smooth, very plush. But anyway, adjustable suspension, I don't know when you'd find a use for it, but it's there. EV mode, like every other Toyota hybrid, you've got adjustable rear shades for the window. And for the side windows. So I'll turn this one on. You can see it goes up, and then even in the two rear corner windows, there are little shades. So that's really cool. Keeps things cool, keeps things shady. And this is kind of a car you're meant to be driven in as much as you are to drive it yourself. So there's a lot of cool features for the backseat passengers that I'll get to in a minute. But moving on, I mentioned some shortcomings, and I think one of the big ones is just this infotainment experience. This is kind of the same general design theme that you get in lesser Lexuses and even some Toyota hybrid products. So I'll go to the menu here. It's just not very refined. Like some frustrating things are you have to use the infotainment screen to adjust the front seats. You still have controls for up, down, forward, back, and lumbar here, but these seats actually have adjustable bolsters. So in order to do all that, though, you need to go into the infotainment system, and this is just, it's really touchy, it's really finicky. It becomes easier to use the more you use it, but I still just, it's a little overcomplicated. Like, I am half the age of the target demographic for this vehicle, and I find this setup to be frustrating. So I can't imagine how they feel about it. Same goes for seat climate. You'll notice that these are the only buttons really on the dashboard. You've got these, which I just showed you what they do, and then these, and that's really it. So to turn on even the heated seats, you have to use this thing, which is infuriating. This vehicle was last redesigned for 2018, and I know that customers have been complaining about a lack of physical buttons for certain things like heated seats for over a decade now, since automakers started integrating certain features into touchscreens and getting rid of buttons. So I know this issue has been known for a while, and I'm really surprised that Lexus chose to still require you to use the infotainment system to adjust the heated and ventilated seats, because luckily they stay on when you turn the vehicle off, so in the winter you can just have your heated seats on and not have to worry about turning them on again every time you get in and out of the vehicle. But on days when the temperature's in between, having to go in here and take multiple steps just to adjust the heated seats, I think that would wear on me. I think that would get really old. Anyway, though, the name of the game here is comfort, and this vehicle is certainly comfortable. It's got something like a 23 speaker audio system. This is like Alcantara. The whole headliner, including the sunroof liner, is Alcantara. Basic sunroof, not a panoramic. You can see you have speakers in the ceiling back there, in addition to mirrors, which I'll show you in greater detail in a minute. Seats are really comfortable. I really like the color scheme of this vehicle. It's kind of like a brick brown over a cream, almost white color. Center console storage box is pretty big. You can open it from either side, which is a cool touch. So I'll pop that up. Infotainment's never been one of Toyota's strong points. You've got two old school USB ports here, an aux port, and then a 12-volt outlet. This car does have Apple CarPlay, but it does not have Android Auto. Still doesn't have Android Auto. I really hope that that's added as part of an update, maybe like an over-the-air software update down the line. Still has a CD player, which is something I actually just noticed. That's kind of crazy. But again, given the customer base, I think some of them might still use CDs, maybe. Parking brake controls are right there, and again, I'm actually just now realizing this. I guess I hadn't used the parking brake over the course of my week here. Cup holders here. Another thing I noticed is that the doors don't appear to have space for a water bottle holder. So that's kind of odd. Rich people get thirsty too. Seems like another oversight. But otherwise, memory seats on both sides, massaging seats, which is really nice. Another funny thing here, aside from the actual knob, I'm pretty sure this is the same shifter design used in the Prius. So, and everything from the Prius all the way up to the LS, Lexus hybrids seem to share a similar design when it comes to shift patterns. I don't know, you tell me. Is that the same setup as in the Prius? I think it is. Anyway, I've rambled about the front seat for long enough, and there's actually a lot to talk about in the back seat too, so let's hop back there. Okay, now we're in the back seat of the Lexus LS. You can see some really cool detail on the speakers. Again, the door panels are all leather. As I showed you before, there are actually shades that pop out that can shade you from all the common folk outside, in addition to the sun. But the really fun part is right here, and this is the controls for the back seat here. And I apologize, I know that this is in the sun, but here you've got audio controls, climate controls, seat controls. You can control the shades right here, so I'll put up the side shade. You can see it pops out of the base here and then just slides all the way up. And like I mentioned, there are even shades for these two corner windows, including this little one back here. I think that's really cool. The grab handles up here are leather wrapped. There's a hook for a hanger or a coat maybe. And then you get a fold down mirror with a light in it, just like you would in the front seats. Speakers in the ceiling. There's your light. There's also a shade for that back window. The only thing that the back seats don't have is the massage function. Other than that, they recline, which is really crazy. So I'll choose the right seat here. And then you've got adjustability for the headrests, the backrest, the bottoms, and then you can also just make it recline. And the way it works is you just hold the button. So you just touch and hold. There you go. It's fully reclined. It doesn't recline super far, but enough that you could probably get some sleep if you were being driven by your chauffeur back here. Otherwise, yeah, that about covers everything. There is a little cup holder, but the really cool thing about this car is a lot of times these like high-end sedans that you're kind of meant to maybe have a chauffeur for are only 4-seaters, but that is actually not the case here. This thing folds up, and you've got a 5th seat back here, so you can seat 5 if you want. Seatbelt, yeah, pretty cool. To put it down, you just grab this handle, and there you go. It comes down really slowly. It's really damped. And then you've got 2 USB ports back here and a little storage compartment. Anyway, I think that about does it for the back seat. Real quickly, here's a look at the window sticker. So you can see that this is a 2019 LS500h. The color is manganese luster, and the final assembly point is in Tahara, Aichi, Japan. It's got a few packages, a few extra items here. So the base MSRP of this vehicle is about $83,000. And then it's got some active safety systems. It's got the luxury package. It's got the Mark Levinson 23 speaker audio system, premium paint. It's got a heads-up display. And that brings the total to about $108,000 out the door, which is nuts, but that is the price you pay for a premium luxury sedan like the LS. You can see that the hybrid fuel economy comes in at 23 miles per gallon city, 31 highway, and 26 combined. Worth noting, though, like I said, this thing only makes 350 horsepower. The non-hybrid LS has a twin-turbo V6 that gets 21 miles per gallon combined. And at this price point, I just don't know that an extra 5 miles per gallon is worth the performance drop-off you get with the hybrid. And that's kind of my main issue with this vehicle. I don't know how many buyers who are spending over $100,000 on a luxury sedan are really that worried about 5 miles per gallon. I'd like to see the sales breakdown of the new LS, of the non-hybrid versus the hybrid powertrain. I can't imagine many buyers would opt for the hybrid, especially not after driving it. I found this thing to be... It's super, super refined all around until you get behind the wheel and you hammer the gas pedal. The hybrid powertrain is just, it kind of kills the experience, especially under acceleration. It's a little thrashy, it's a little droney. It is unbecoming of a vehicle of this caliber to have a hybrid powertrain that is as wonky and noisy as this one. And Toyota's hybrid powertrain is really, really good. I just don't think it belongs in this vehicle because it does kind of hurt the experience for me. Pulling onto the highway, when you hammer it, the car's not slow. It does 0 to 60 in like 5.1 seconds, and the non-hybrid does 0 to 60 in like 4.6 seconds. So there's not a huge disparity there. But just the noises that it makes and the amount of noise that it makes kind of hurts the overall experience. I mentioned that there are a couple other... This car's awesome. It is so awesome. I've had so much fun with it. I've been chauffeuring my friends around in the back seat. Everybody loves it. But it's just... There are some things... Before I did a little research, I was under the assumption that it had maybe been out for a few years, and that's why some of the features are maybe a little bit dated. Just because like the infotainment experience, as with most Toyotas and Lexuses, it's not good. I wouldn't call it good. It's maybe okay, but it's definitely not good. And that has to do with the functionality, the features, and just the overall appearance. It's a little cheap.
the hybrid powertrain, and then there are just some other little things. It doesn't have the latest connectivity ports, um, you know, but I think worth keeping in mind is the intended customer base for this vehicle isn't looking for all of that. Generally, they've worked their entire lives. They're tired. They want to be comfortable. They don't want to deal with nonsense and extra features. They just want a vehicle that is smooth and comfortable. And in the case especially of the LS here, they want something that's going to last and run for a long time and not have issues and not have them making unnecessary stops at the dealership to deal with little things. And I think that's generally who buys this vehicle. I think you have to be pretty brand loyal to Lexus to buy this over maybe an A8 or an S-Class or a 7 Series, just because this doesn't have all the latest crazy features like those vehicles. I mean, it still has an analog clock on the dashboard, which, I mean, even if you're 70 years old, I don't know of many people that think an analog clock is better than a digital clock at this point. But it's just kind of quirky like that. It's very conservative. But overall, the name of the game with the LS is kind of slow and steady wins the race. And I think overall this is a really, really interesting vehicle. While it has some shortcomings, while there are some little things that I think are unbecoming, especially in the hybrid trim, unbecoming of a $110,000 luxury sedan, in a lot of ways this vehicle still sets the standard for quality and refinement and longevity throughout the entire auto industry.